All right, so week 3 is in the books, and now we're getting ready to start week 4. We're getting into some different applications now. We're going to still do a little bit of hand sketching, okay, and we're going to do something called grid scaling. So we'll take a grid and copy it onto another grid of take a drawing, put a grid on it, and copy it onto another grid that's either larger or smaller, and that way you get a scale version of your image. And so that's going to be our first required thing to do, and shouldn't take too long, about an hour of study and work, and then there's optional ones to do that have even more. And for our civil and architectural models, we're going to move into Revit now. So whereas in SketchUp we did a press pull, here we're going to do something called make a topo solid, and it's much more detailed and precise than what you can get with a SketchUp model. And so that's important, as you'll see in the videos. If you really need to know and have a good visualization and a good model to work with of what's really there. And once we have a topo solid, the ground, again, we can put a residential building on it. Now, last time we had to create components in SketchUp and put them together. Revit is already done that way. If you put in a wall, it really is a wall module already. It knows what's in it. It knows the framing and the finish and the insulation and the thickness, and it models it for you as you go. So in some ways, in many ways, Revit gives you a much better model more quickly. However, it's a pretty big program, and you have to know how construction works to use it. And to know construction, you have to know Revit. It's like a catch-22. So we get started easy, and I give you the concepts. It's hard to concept in Revit. It's much easier to concept in SketchUp. But I've given you the concept already so that you can get used to doing it. So we're going to make a Revit residential building. It's going to have the same thing. It's going to have floors. We're not going to do the foundation, but it's got floors and walls and roofs and windows and doors. So it's got almost all the same things that we used last time. It's interesting, in Revit, you do it backwards. You put the foundation on after the walls are there, and there's some excellent tools to do that with. Okay, so we make our ground like we did before in SketchUp, but now we're doing it in Revit. We make the building, and instead of doing it in SketchUp, we do it in Revit. And that's going to give us some time, because those are very fast compared to doing it in SketchUp. If you already have your model identified and ready to go, we're going to add lid features. That's low impact design, and you'll see some videos about it. It's how to deal with stormwater and keeping our public waterways safe from many types of pollution. And we're just choosing a few different lid features to add to Revit. Those are things like swales and bioretention ponds and rain barrels and green roofs. There's all sorts of them, and you'll have a chance to research them a little bit. You'll research at least one of them and add it to the lid collaboration file. This is a Google presentation where you'll make a duplicate of one slide, the template slide, and then do your own work on that one to show people about the lid feature that you chose. Now, in this case, in SketchUp, pretty much gave you a template to start with for the land, and then you worked with it based on some instructions. Here, I'm giving you a start file to start with, and instead of having to draw the thing, I've given you what's called an import. You can import topographies from other software. You can actually import from SketchUp. You can import from AutoCAD, from Rhino, from Chief Architect. You can import all sorts of different ones. So this is a import from AutoCAD, and it's in the file already. After that, everything you do is going to be in this file for pretty much all the rest of your Revit. So keep your file somewhere where you know where it is, and you'll keep using it as we go along. You'll just do more and more and more work in it. Okay, you'll find it becomes a pretty large file because Revit holds tons of information. When I say you put in a wall, it really has a lot of information about that wall. Even so much as sound reflectance and light reflectance and the R factor of the insulation for the wall. And they're all things that you can change if you find that you have more information than Revit does, but in general, we just use the standards that's in Revit. So this is a very, very cool program, Revit. It does a lot of work. This week, we are doing some civil work, the ground. We're doing some architectural work, just the building shell, the outside of the building. Next week, we'll put in interior walls and some furniture, and then you'll be able to see how it develops along those lines. Okay, you've got some optional work to do. You've got grid scale, layer cake model preparation. So with SketchUp, we threw it into VR. This can go right into VR too. Revit plugs right into the VR module, and you can walk right around in it. So you can also take it to VR. And I encourage you to do so. Take your model and go over to the lab and run it. And then there's another type of model. This is a physical model. It's one that you make. It's one that you touch. You can handle it. You can see it. And in making the model, you get a really, really good feel for the site, more than just using your eyes and walking around in VR. You get a good physical feeling for it, and it's called a layer cake model, and you'll see why when we get to that. We will be doing this next week, but you can make yours, get it ready to be more cool. There's a graphic dictionary. The vocational computations are all about typical values that you'll need to do low impact design. They're all done based on amounts of rainfall over given areas and percent permeable and things like that. So you should know about these even if you're doing concept modeling. That's actually one of the main reasons we do concept modeling, so that we can check the estimates against what is required. So this is setting you up to do some of those. And the large language model research is about low impact design also. So we've moved from just learning how to use SketchUp and getting some of the basic ideas of modeling down. Now we're getting into modeling really for a purpose, and showing not just the civil and the architectural, but now the land planning or the landscaping. And next week we'll put in the interior design and space planning. So all of this is available on Monday. It's actually available now as you listen to this. The grid scale, again, about an hour's worth of work, not too much. It's due on Sunday, February 11th. And the main bulk here, 4 hours, you go, that's a lot for 4 hours. It's actually the TopoSolid, the residential. You'll see my demo videos take maybe 10, 15 minutes each. And so you can do this very fast, of course, if you know the software and you're learning the software. So I figure about half an hour to 45 minutes worth of work would turn into about 4 hours of study and work, which is still pretty light. That's 5 hours. And our course, you should be doing about 6.5 or 7 hours each week. Okay. And so, and then of the additional work here, you can pick and choose. Try to get, time on task. That's what makes you good at doing this. And remember, we're blurring the lines between architecture, engineering, and design because of these software models. So the more you can put your hands on this, the more prepared you will be to do excellent work in whichever field of study you end up going into. It could be design of structures, design of buildings, design of land surfaces, design of landscape, design of piping systems, MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. It could be solar, it could be roof. All of those really are starting to rely on Revit, and so does interior design. All of those are starting to rely on Revit or their similar software, such as Chief Architect. All right, so there we go. That is our overview of week 4 in Design 320, grid scale hand sketching, and more in-depth modeling of concept, civil, and architectural models with Revit, getting ready for physical modeling next week.